One.
Hi, this is Elyse Sartor from Atlanta, Georgia, and you're watching GoTarryn TV.
Hey everybody, welcome to GoTarryn TV today. I'm Tarryn the Traveling Trainer out of Atlanta, Georgia, and it's episode 501. And side by side, right next to me there, you could see for the very first time, we have also from Atlanta, Georgia, Ms. Elyse Sartor. Elyse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on here. And this is the very first time we're welcoming you here. For all the folks out there in Atlanta, just so you know, Elyse is a registered dietitian nutritionist, and she works in the health, wellness, and fitness industry as well. And I reached out to her on LinkedIn because we're connected on there, and I was really excited when she accepted the invitation to come on here. So, Elyse, again, it's a pleasure and honor to have you on. If you could, for the folks watching or listening, wherever they're at, if this is the very first time they're meeting you, can you start out maybe just please tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how you ended up here in Atlanta, please?
Sure. I actually come from all over. I'm a registered dietitian. I recently completed, about a year ago, my training with Emory University Hospital.
Excellent.
I worked with their School of Medicine and did clinical research as my emphasis for supervised practice there. I originally was from Colorado, moved to New Jersey. I did school in California, completed a Bachelor's of Science in Nutrition Science there at Pepperdine University. And I just love nutrition. I got into this field really early. When I was young, I was a pre-diabetic and was diagnosed with food sensitivities.
Okay.
So since then, I just saw how changing my diet completely changed my life and allowed me to not live as a diabetic. And so I got into the field very, very early and have loved it since. Now I'm practicing here in Atlanta, Georgia at Atlanta Medical Center and taking clients of my own as well.
That's excellent. That's awesome. So if we step back a little bit, are you originally from Colorado then?
Yeah, originally from Colorado Springs.
Oh, very cool. And you still have family back there, I assume?
We have family friends, but not much family back there.
Okay. All right. But so then, excuse me, you get a chance to go back there at all and visit home anytime?
Every once in a while. I think more we consider our home where most of my family is, in Princeton, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. How did you transition from Colorado to New Jersey? Was that schooling?
No, that I was still growing up. It was my dad's job that moved us out to New Jersey.
Very cool, because that's so different going from all the way in the Midwest over to the East Coast and then down to Atlanta. When did you get down to Atlanta, Georgia?
2 years ago. I moved here to finish supervised practice at Emory.
That's awesome. That's very impressive. That's excellent. And how have you liked it so far?
It's been really good. It definitely, I'd never been to the South before moving to Atlanta. I'd never seen it before living here. So there was some culture shock, but I've really kind of grown to like the city. There's a lot of different cultures here. There's a lot of, especially food from different cultures, which is what I love. And it's just been wonderful to meet new people and see this side of the country. It's very, very different from California, but it's got its own cool qualities.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I see that it's becoming a melting pot over the years. And so take us back. You had mentioned, just to reiterate, you were pre-diabetic before and you had some food sensitivities. Can you tell us specifically what those food sensitivities included?
Sure. Especially it was gluten and dairy.
Okay.
So we went from eating a very typical American diet to eating a diet that helped prevent diabetes, so very, very low sugar. And on top of that, no gluten and no dairy. So it was a huge change for my family. And we, especially that time, 15, 20 years ago, there were really no good gluten-free products on the market. Everything was very processed and kind of still tasted like cardboard. So we learned how to bake and cook all sorts of different gluten-free products and dairy-free products, and really learned to love food that was not quite so sweet, which took a while. And is really something I enjoy helping people with today, because there are a lot of things that you can do that help adjust your taste to like less sweet things over time, and that's what we had to do from a very early age.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that because, honestly, this whole gluten-free phenomenon, for me, I didn't really see that till maybe the last 10 years or so. Because growing up as a kid, I couldn't even tell you what that meant. I didn't see that. But is that something that has been recognized, would you say, recently more and more, with science and everything? Or has that always been around, but we're just becoming more aware of it?
Well, I think it's always been around, but I do think there are more diagnoses coming out, but
Okay.
also more, I just think it's increasing.
Yeah.
Celiac disease has been around for a while too, but that diagnosis and incidence is really skyrocketing for that as well. I think it's up to about 1 in 100 people.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
interesting.
yeah, that's been around for a while, and that's really the area of my research that I like the most. I've done I've done some pilot studies at Pepperdine University on non-celiac gluten sensitivity and celiac disease to try and figure out biomarkers, because that's one of the problems with non-celiac gluten sensitivity is its diagnosis is very fluid right now. There's not a good solid biomarker that people can point to actually diagnose someone with it
That's
very well.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think it is that's maybe the increase of sensitivities? Is it something to do with the processed foods or preservatives, or is it something man-made? Is it caused by us, or what is it? Do you think that it's deriving from?
I don't think there's any solid evidence that really points to any one thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's probably a bunch of different things that
Sure.
are contributing. There's a lot of very interesting research in this area about the microbiome and how maybe different microbiome populations have, especially in the gut, have changed our susceptibility to different immune problems, even autoimmune problems and allergies. So there could be some component of microbiome changes,
Okay.
but also I think there's some component of overexposure as well. Because with those types of things, especially gluten and dairy, for example,
Uh-huh.
people have them in a typical American diet, not just at once a day, one meal a day. They're in almost every meal and almost every snack.
Mm-hmm.
So similar to how with a bee sting allergy, most people say they develop one after they've been stung 10, 12, 20 times.
Oh, wow.
Similarly to how overexposure can help make that worse, overexposure seems like it could make the sensitivities worse or start them.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. Wow, you've definitely done your research on that. Then going back again, I know I can make this assumption that that's your own personal food sensitivities, kind of what inspired you to go in this industry and in this path of your career.
Yeah, definitely. I loved that. And I also got some great exposure to research in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to continue in nutrition, but err more towards the sides of nutrition research because I got some great exposure to good research at Princeton University growing up as
Wow.
well as at Pepperdine University and at Emory. So,
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, again, your resume is just solid, and I'm just very impressed. With growing up, and again, you can use yourself as an example, or friends, or anybody else that you know with these kind of food allergies and sensitivities. I know one of the challenges could include grocery shopping and where you're going to go out to get your groceries, or even eating at restaurants. For your own self, again, if you want to use that as an example, are there advice or suggestions, tips for people if they're watching and they've recently discovered that they've developed this, or they're struggling, they don't know where to go, and or again, I know this is a fully loaded question, but typically I find that the foods are more expensive generally. But what's your overall take on how to get around this?
if you are having difficulty with budgeting, you might need to look at the products that you're trying to switch,
Okay.
and see if your baseline diet needs some change. For example, if you're saying, okay, I'm going to have toast in the morning, sandwich at lunch, and like a grilled cheese at dinner, that's a whole lot of bread. So, and if you're
Sure.
trying to translate that right to gluten-free, it's going to be a whole lot more expensive because gluten-free bread is usually more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But that baseline diet isn't the healthiest.
Mm-hmm.
And you might want to change something like if you're going to have a brown rice bowl for one of those meals, you still get some whole grains in there, but that already is a gluten-free food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you take that baseline and just say, okay, what processed foods can we take out of this? Most of the foods you're going to end up with, unless you're going straight to wheat berries for one of them, most of the foods are already going to be gluten-free.
Mm-hmm.
If you make that a healthy diet to start out with.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many good whole grains that are already gluten-free. I mean, the only ones that have gluten are wheat, rye, and barley.
Okay.
But you can do quinoa, you can do millet, you
Mm-hmm.
can do brown rice, you can do a whole host of other grains if you're going to do whole grains that already, if you're going to have them on a normal diet, you'd be able to have. So I'd say avoiding processed foods is going to be the easiest way to just transition into an overall healthier diet to begin with, but also a gluten-free diet.
That's good. Excellent. Let me ask you this, Elyse. Here in Atlanta, for the couple years you've lived here, are you impressed, or do you find that there's enough variety or options to go grocery store shopping or restaurants here for, people with any kind of food allergies?
You guys here in Atlanta actually have one of the best resources I've seen.
Oh, wow.
That's
Oh.
the DeKalb World Market.
Oh, I know where that's at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They have some really great options that are more affordable than other grocery stores. And I've seen almost every gluten-free, processed food and unprocessed food that you can find in grocery stores at the DeKalb World Market for a better price.
Oh, that's good. How about going out to restaurants? Are you finding that's optional, on menus, that they're aware and that they provide different options that they should have?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of restaurants that have great options. I know there's some that have very few gluten-containing foods on their menu to begin with. For example, True Food Kitchen is a really great one up in Buckhead that has a lot of gluten-free options to begin with. And even the restaurants, I know True Food is meant to be a very, very healthy restaurant, but even things like Bar Taco, which is an Atlanta local chain, their fryer is gluten-free.
Oh, wow.
And so there's restaurants if you're looking for them. I am partial to tacos and to Mexican food, and a lot of Mexican restaurants, they use a corn base, and you do need to ask because sometimes they'll add wheat flour to their tortilla chips, but most times not.
Okay.
So there's a lot of options. I think the important thing is if you do have a gluten-related condition, then you need to ask and not just assume things because gluten can hide in places quite easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good point, Elyse. What about how about what you're doing right now in Atlanta? Let's go back to that. I understand that you're accepting clientele base, and how are you liking what you're doing right now?
I have a lot of different hats. I wear a lot of different hats right now, and I'm starting to launch more seeing clients on my own. But I am working most of my hours at Atlanta Medical Center doing inpatient clinical dietetics. So those two things are very, very different. So I've seen a host of different conditions. On my own, it's outpatient, of course, and it's helping people just after maybe I've had some post-oncology patients where they're trying to change their diet while they're also trying to heal, and patients who have much lower acuity for their conditions. For inpatient, you're helping people a lot with post-motor vehicle accidents when they can't have solid food or they need tube feeding, or when someone comes in after a heart attack and needs education on how they can change their diet back home. So they're two very different things, but it's exciting because it's cool to see a range of conditions and help people all the way through from when they really, really just need acute help right then because they're in the ICU, or when people want to start taking small steps to make a healthier diet overall for their whole family.
That's impressive. Again, I like how you answered that. You talked about the challenges and some of the rewarding aspects of that. In this whole field that you're working in, what do you envision yourself, say, long-term, 5, 10 years from now, where you'd like to be at?
I would love to keep seeing patients on my own because there is a very rewarding, very special part of that when you can see changes in an individual's life.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually am starting to take steps to have my own business seeing patients. But I'd also love to continue in this research track and someday be a professor of nutrition.
Awesome. Wow. So, yeah, I could tell, again, from your resume, continuing education is just very important and vital to you. And like you mentioned, too, you sound very busy with everything that you're doing. So how do you find the time to budget for yourself, for example, if we were to talk about fitness and working out and exercising? Because I know that you live a very healthy lifestyle. Is it pretty challenging to balance all that out, or is it easy? Is it something that you just are able to organize without any flaws, or how would you say, for yourself?
I'm sure you can probably relate to this too. It's still a challenge, even for people in the health and wellness industry.
Yeah,
it's definitely still a challenge, and it's something that you need to be very intentional about. I think I'm lucky that I started very early because there's some things that are just second nature to me. And things like running, jogging, maybe not everything I need to do with my fitness, but something like running, that's how I've been managing with stress for more than 10 years now.
Okay.
So something like that will come second nature to me in my schedule. I think every time you move, which I've moved a lot, the meal planning can get upset. Yeah. And so you need to be very, very intentional with figuring out where you're going to shop, figuring out how to get the right variety of things. And that's something I'm still not perfect on, but I definitely use my education in nutrition to come up with the best meals that I can come up with wherever I am. And I think one of the key things is every little bit of planning helps. So even if you're in the grocery store parking lot and you sit and you plan for 2 minutes, that's going to go a long way as far as making sure that you have what you need to make meals for all the way until the next time you can go shopping. It doesn't need to be something where you sit and you take an hour and you plan every single little detail. Every little bit counts.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And here's a just general question for you, Elyse. With what you observe, not only in Atlanta, but in the U.S., how would you say that the food and dietary guidelines in schools or at workplaces or in your observations, are you happy with where we're at with that, or do you think there could be a little bit of work that needs to be done with that?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question for me. I actually had a great experience of witnessing how the dietary guidelines are formed. I was at the Department of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion while they started making the dietary guidelines 2015.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I got to see the interior of that, and it can be overwhelming because they're trying to base it off of experts' evaluation of the recent science in nutrition. However, that process is very long, and it ends up being, you end up having to narrow it down so much that sometimes a lot gets left behind. And so they'll try and pick that up 5 years from now, but it's just something you need to understand, that every single dietary guidelines, which is what they base school nutrition and military nutrition off of, they're not perfect. And they're never going to be perfect. They're just guidelines, but they're not what every single person needs. So that said, there's always going to be a long way to go with the guidelines that they come up with. With nutrition in the U.S., I think it's pretty obvious that there's a long way to go as well, just as far as what people are used to and what they're opening up to. In school nutrition, I can see that there's still a pretty typical, I don't want to say westernized, but there's still a pretty traditional diet. And there's still a decent amount of processed food that gets served. And that's probably not going to change for a while. So there is a long way to go with that. I think we're making progress, though. I was happy that they started talking a lot more about sustainability and about sugar this time, because I think that was definitely a big omission from last time.
Very good. Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that they're making strides in a positive effort there. That's very hopeful, and hopefully that they just stay on that path and it does get better. But here's one final question for you before we get to your contact information. What generally do you find most rewarding about working with the patients that you work with, and also, like, what do you love best about your patients?
I love getting to know them. I love really personalizing nutrition. It's always a challenge, but it's always an opportunity to be creative and to really, you need to get to know someone to know what motivates them in order to actually help them. So I really love that challenge, and the fact that that challenge lets me use creativity and lets me get to know people.
Excellent. Very good, Elyse. Well, I've enjoyed this past 20 minutes chatting with you and picking your brain, and again, am just thoroughly amazed with everything that you're doing, and I got to commend you because you're doing a wonderful job. Let me ask you this, for anybody watching or listening out there, if they want to contact you directly and ask you a question or find out more information about you specifically, what are the best methods of contact that they can get a hold of you?
All right. Well, I would also want to thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed
My
this
pleasure.
as well. Right now, the best contact information would be to email me, and my email is elysesartor@gmail.com. Again, that's ELYS as in Sam, S as in Sam, AR, T as in Tom, OR@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Perfect. Good. We'll get that on the screen so everybody can take that down. And again, Elyse, I've got to say, you are one of the most educated, intelligent, smart individuals that I've spoken to here in quite some time. And I would love to invite you back on and talk more specifically about some different topics here in the nutritional world, because I think that I can learn a lot more from you as well as everyone else out there too.
Well, thank you. I'd love to come back on. Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. Well, the pleasure's all ours. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Elyse, and we'll look forward to having you on here soon. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day, and again, it was just an honor to have you on here.
You as well. Thanks.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in, and there you go with Elyse Sartor, and we'll see you next time. Okay, everybody, there you have it, Ms. Elyse Sartor right here on GoTarryn TV, and you saw her contact information for her email address. I got to tell you again, to reiterate, she is one of the most fascinating, brightest individuals I've talked to here on GoTarryn TV in quite some time. I thoroughly enjoyed that interview and definitely look forward to having her on here in the very near future and talking some more food sensitivities, allergies, different options that people have, suggestions, and again, all the stuff that she can help us out with right here just for you. So again, I thoroughly enjoyed that interview, very much so, and I hope you did too. And for everyone else out there, please make sure to connect with yours truly, Tarryn the Traveling Trainer, by making sure to like GoTarryn on Facebook, subscribe to GoTarryn on YouTube, and follow GoTarryn on Twitter. And that way you'll stay connected with yours truly, Tarryn the Traveling Trainer of GoTarryn Personal Training, who tells each and every one of you that it's your time, it's your investment, it's your life. Thanks so much for watching, folks. We'll see you on the next video blog.